Yeah.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Tolisa Ncenge, and welcome to Dizzy World, a channel where we talk about social justice for all kinds of people. And today we are talking about Afriforum and Solidarity Mischief. Newsroom Africa has reported on the 26th of February 2025, that's Wednesday, that a delegation from Afriforum and Solidarity has held surprise talks at the White House with Trump administration officials. This delegation was led by Solidarity chairperson Philip Bass, their CEO Dirk Herman, Afriforum CEO Kali Krill, and their head of international liaison Jaco Klein-Hans. These four men have urged the US to punish President Ramaphosa and the ANC for what they call government discriminatory legislation. And this news not only came as a complete surprise to Newsroom Africa's Washington correspondent, Simon Marks, but to the entire nation. And he stated that they also handed over a memorandum. Now let's have a look at this memorandum. This memorandum, they say it indicates that the interests of South Africans, including Afrikaners, can best be promoted through intensified pressure to the ANC or on ANC leaders for pushing the so-called radical policies rather than ending South Africa's participation in the AGOA, which they say could punish the entire nation. And this sounds like backtracking to me after shooting themselves on the foot. Now, if you can have a look now, number one, end discrimination against Afrikaners by revising Anti-Afrikaans Bella law. And number two, revising the Expropriation Act. And what is funny, these acts went through a parliamentary process and they were passed in parliament. But now they must be revised because a minority is not happy about democracy, because that's how democracy works. And number three, they are asking the government to enter into a cultural agreement with Afrikaners, which will provide a cultural space. I don't know what does that mean, a cultural space. It sounds like special treatment to me for Afrikaners in South Africa, which include the existence of Afrikaans educational institutions, which are flourishing already. Max Dupree, not so long ago, he attested to that their languages, their schools, their books, everything is flourishing. But you cannot say the same with other race groups. Of course, there were mixed reactions in South Africa regarding this right-wing group, this right-wing Afrikaner movement actions. Some say they are prisoners. Some say they are practicing democracy. But our democracy sometimes leaves much to be desired. Good people, please, can we take a listen at the following clip?
Donald Trump stated, among other things, recently that there's a bad situation in South Africa where the radical left media doesn't want to mention a massive human rights violation. At a minimum, it's happening for all of us to see. But what I'm getting at is, to what extent are we all, or have we been complicit? And I'm talking about us as the media, but also people like you who are in the free expression space, in how we have, for example, referred to or called your Afriforums civil rights organizations, and actually entertains their thoughts and campaigns, including, of course, misrepresentation and lies.
Well, I don't know that there was a fundamentally different way in which to engage those. I do think that their approach now is deserving of fundamental criticism. And I would ask them whether they seriously believe that they and their children are better off in a country in which they believe an expedient, at best, actor like Trump is going to come to their rescue, rather than vesting their interests and their efforts and their energies in looking to safeguard and uphold our constitutional democracy. Because essentially what they're doing in appealing to Trump in the way that they are is essentially saying, have no regard to our constitution, to our sovereign nationality. And my argument to them is, if you have concerns, and let's admit, all South Africans have genuine reason to be concerned about our government, about the unemployment we see, about the extent of poverty, about the extent of crime. But the idea that white Afrikaners are suffering a particular persecution is entirely nonsense. That's not to say that they don't have reason for grievance, right? But the responsible way in which one deals with that grievance is engaging with the elected authorities of this country, not seeking to bypass them and asking for the intervention of a strongman who, as I say, is entirely expedient. Both in principle, that is wrong, and that is entirely in contravention of what we as citizens and inhabitants of South Africa commit ourselves to. But I also think in their self-interest, it's entirely nonsensical, because you cannot believe that your interests are better secured in South Africa, an ocean away from the United States, by the likes of an expedient Trump, rather than real, deliberative, conscientious engagement with your fellow South Africans and those who have been elected to lead South Africa. I think whether on principle or expedience, it just makes no sense what they're doing.
It's not a question of, hey, by any means necessary. Besides, my enemy's enemy is my friend.
As I say, it may be that this is a knee-jerk reaction, but the tragedy of this is that their actions are creating harm, I think, for fellow South Africans. And they may say, well, at this point, we're only looking out for our own self-interests. But as I've tried to argue, that even their narrow self-interests, I think, are harmed by this course of action. There's no way you can seriously think that Trump, an ocean away, is going to secure some idea of self-rule in South Africa. But I also think what they're doing by undertaking this high-profile campaign of disinformation is inflaming the hatreds, the division, the intolerance in South Africa. It's only fomenting the fractures, that it is going to make it potentially more difficult for us to live in peace. And so I would say what they are doing at the moment is fundamentally irresponsible.
Nicole Fritz, thank you so much for your time.
And if you find the information resonating with you, kindly can you please like, click the notification bell, subscribe, share. And as some people describe Solidarity and Afriforum move as an insult to South Africa's democracy or sovereignty, unpatriotic and unacceptable, Apartheid General Constant Viljoen. You know, apparently he had some fears about their future. There was an article here on the Daily Maverick, I think on the 24th of April 2014, a man who envisioned Volksstaat or homeland, Afrikaner homeland, that is to divide South Africa. He said, and I quote, "The problem with the Volksstaat is the spread of the Afrikaners within South Africa. You cannot cordon off an area where are only Afrikaners." And to tell you the truth, he says, I don't think Afrikaners would move for that, because Afrikaners are scattered all over SA. He said there is, however, ways and means to soften the effects of one man, one vote. Apparently, their issue is one man, one vote. Their issue is numbers. That is to have control over schools and institutions of higher learning. A strong cultural organizations like Afriforum and Solidarity. I'm sure that's what they are doing right now. This could stem, he says, the rapid waning of cohesion that Viljoen fears will become terminal. Apparently, they could regroup Afrikaners into a political bloc rather than, in fact, a political non-entity. So I think there is more to this Afriforum and Solidarity actions than meets the eye. For an example, last year, Helen Zille met with Trump officials before these two right-wing groups. And she laughed when asked by Clement Manyatela on his show, then FF Plus leader Cody Mulder is also supporting the Afriforum actions, and there is also US government involvement. So this looks like an international campaign. And before this, there was Phil Craig, a British immigrant who was fighting for a Cape independence. You can imagine fighting for an independence in a foreign country. Now Afriforum is doing what they are doing. I think we need to do is just to be careful to watch these people closely, what they are up to, because it's clear they are up to something. The problem is that they can't say it out loud that they want a homeland. That's why they are trying all these shenanigans. But let's just be vigilant, because we cannot afford a divided country after all these years. And good people, that's how we come to the end of today's video. And please click the notification bell, share the video, subscribe, and see you on the next one. Cheers.